Alright, before I get started, because I know I give a lot of disclaimers and sometimes I ramble, there will be timestamps in the description. So if it's a title that applies to you or you're more interested in something, timestamp will be in the description. Also, before I get started with the video, I do think we as the black community, we need to prioritize a lot better. We spend too much time focusing on things that we can focus on later when we got bigger issues to deal with. Prime example, you got a hole in your roof, but instead of fixing that hole in the roof, you over here spending money and time on seeing what TV you want in that room, seeing, you know, what color you want that room, painting the walls and what furniture you want. And then as soon as it rains, all that is destroyed. So that's how I'm looking at certain things that we spend too much time on. Outside of that, man, to be honest, being that I have so much passion for our black community and I put myself, you know, back in that position to try to have a huge impact, I speak on a lot of different topics. I'm put in a position now to make it seem as if I'm talking about this person or I'm talking about this group or whatever the case is. One, I mentioned in another video that if I have an individual problem with a person, I go to them directly. So I would never make a video trying to send subliminal shots to an individual, because I'm not trying to beef with nobody. I don't have time for it. I move differently. My energy is in a different space. I got bigger problems than having a individual beef with somebody, especially of my own race. We got too many of the same problems for me to be focused on you like that. So understand that if I ever talk on any topic, it's not to shed light on that individual or make it seem like I have a personal problem with that person. It just may be that their actions just so fall in line, you know, with a bigger problem that many people in our community, you know, deal with. So I definitely want to make sure that's understood, you know, for future references. This video or any other video, I want to make sure, you know, I let people know the type of person that I am, and I don't have ill intentions for the things that I do. But I gave too much of a disclaimer with the topics that I'm talking about, man. I feel like all these topics are being misrepresented in some form or fashion from a whole standpoint. And I do have my topic list right here, so when I look down, I'm trying to make sure I don't miss a topic. I'm going to start with submissive. This has been demonized by the masses, and I can say, men, we got to take responsibility of that, because a lot of men, when we talk about women being submissive, it does sound like it's coming from a controlling standpoint, as if the woman has no rights. She has to do whatever we say, you know, so on and so forth. Me personally, I do not agree with that, and I know as a man that may sound a little bit weird, and some men may say it's weak, that, you know, oh, men should definitely have all the power and control of the relationship, and I don't move like that. Everybody can move how they want to, but I do understand that if you move like that, that is very suffocating, and you probably gonna have a lot of different issues and problems with your relationship, because you're not allowing this woman to have her freedom and allowing her to tap into her feminine side a lot more. She has to put this, you know, armor on to get ready to go to war with you. And when you're in a relationship, if y'all are competing or at war with each other, that should be self-explanatory that it's not going to work out if things don't change. So when we talk about being submissive, men, we have to understand that when it comes to women, that's something they have to feel that we're deserving of. We can't just demand them to be submissive and we haven't given them a reason to, you know, let that guard down. I can speak from personal experience. My queen, when we first met, you know, getting to know each other, she's a strong individual, and she has been through, you know, certain things that has gotten her to the point to where she has to have certain defenses up to be able to survive in this world. And you know, we all should understand that men and women, we have been conditioned a certain type of way that you have to learn to adapt. You know, you become a product of your environment. So, you know, that was the case with my queen, but I wasn't worried about it, because I understand where I'm coming from now, especially if you move from, and I don't want to throw the spiritual aspect out there too much, because I know a lot of people don't, you know, subscribe to that, for lack of a better term. But when you're coming from a spiritual standpoint, if a woman can feel that with you, she's going to have that comfort and understand that you're not going to be abusive, and I'm not talking about physical, but you're not going to abuse that power, for lack of better terms, of her being submissive. she feels that comfort, you're allowing her to tap into her feminine side a lot more. So men, we have to be deserving of that. Also, it was brought to my attention from a Facebook post that men should be submissive to women. Now, I know men, when they heard that, you probably being submissive to no woman. So men, you have to understand, in a relationship, if you want that relationship to flourish how it should, it's going to be times you will have to submit to your woman. Both men and women have those times, and I'll give you a perfect example. Me, I have no problem with, at times I'm gonna have to submit to my queen. I don't care about the looking weak, and because anybody that knows me, they understand the beta, alpha, male, all that. I don't have to explain myself to people. The people that know me, they know what's up. YouTube or whoever sees this video, all you can go based off of is what I'm saying. But regardless, how I had to be submissive with my queen. I believe in polygamy, and I'll get more in depth about that topic later, but I believe in polygamy. I know it's many terms, I just found this out, but there's many different terms, polymorous and whatever else. Y'all understand what I'm talking about. But my queen, she is monogamous, okay? So we had that understanding at the very beginning of getting to know each other. So now I have a decision. Do I say, we could just be friends or whatever because I know we're not gonna mesh? Or do, I submit to her with being monogamous? And so that is a form of submission. Now, when it's broken down like that, people may not look at it as submission, but that is definitely an example of submission. So I had to submit to what she wanted. She was monogamous, so I was like, all right, cool, we can rock like that. I'm not tripping. So that's just an example of how we men, that's just my personal example to give men an insight, men and women insight on how a man could be submissive to a woman. But I think that would be it for that topic. Now going to the topic of independence. This has also been demonized. And I'm gonna keep this in regards to women, because men, it's kind of understood, men, you gotta be a provider, you gotta be strong, you gotta be able to take care of yourself, take care of your family, all that type of stuff. But now it's a lot of people make it seem bad for women to be independent, as if she needs a man. Now I'll explain the need a man part here in a second, but it's made to seem bad if a woman is independent. Now I understand the overemphasis of being independent from a woman's standpoint, from the basis of I don't need a man, I don't want a man, boom, boom, boom. I understand from that standpoint, saying that it shouldn't be like that, or having a problem with that. But women should definitely have their independence and not feel as though they have to solely depend on somebody else. Let's say if a woman is single, she can't be independent and take care of her responsibilities, take care of herself, work hard, and make sure she good, whether that's education, whatever she needs to do to be independent. We make it seem like that's a bad thing when there's nothing at all wrong with a woman taking care of herself like that. Now, from the aspect of needing a man, when we're talking about the black man and the black woman, yes, we need each other as far as dynamic wise, but individually, men and women, we're capable of operating or surviving to some extent, without a man having a woman, or without a woman having a man. But I explained this to people before. You got to think about it. It's like those pictures. The pictures that you can see a complete image, but once you put them together, it makes a whole different image. That's what I'm talking about. So it's okay to have your independence, but in order to reach our divine greatness, we do need each other in that sense, to where our picture has just been turned into something else. Now, with the topic of polygamy, let me say this. Polygamy does not apply to every single person, because I know some people strictly disagree with it, some people agree with it. Understand that it's not for everybody, but it has definitely been demonized and sexualized and turned into something that is not. Polygamy is definitely a spiritual practice, but me personally, I feel that you have to have done a lot of individual spiritual work and get yourself to a particular point in your spirituality to where then that route may apply to you. A lot of men, I don't know, man, polygamy has definitely got a bad rap because it's been turned into like some player type stuff. Like I got all these women, or you know, I can do whatever I want to do because I'm polygamous and so on and so forth. For me, that's a open relationship. That's not polygamy. Polygamy, like I said, it is from a spiritual sense, so it has to be held in a high regard, and I feel like a lot of people are misrepresenting it, and it's not being held in that regard. Polygamy it's not about how many women you have, or you know what other people may think as far as, man, he living a life and all this other stuff. It's people have made it to something that it's not. So understand, if you have a person representing it a certain type of way, you can tell if it's from a spiritual base or not. You would feel that energy. And really, polygamy should be handled from it takes a village to raise a kid standpoint. That goes along with the seriousness of it and how a person would really move if they're really holding polygamy and spirituality to that high regard. They're going to move like that. It's not going to be broadcasted, you know, as if it's you know, you the man and you know you just living the life. So polygamy is definitely one of those things that's being misrepresented, and it needs to be handled in high regard. So everybody is not qualified. That's the word I'm looking for. You have to be qualified in order to practice polygamy and certain other things coming from a spiritual sense. Talking about a spiritual sense and talking about people, you know, misrepresenting everything. This one definitely makes me mad because a person like me, that spirituality is I put spirituality over everything. Spirituality is what we are. It's in us. That is, it's also to be held in high regard. So when there's people that misrepresent it as far as say that they're spiritual, but they show other things that, you know, if a person is really walking in a divine purpose and divine essence, they move a certain type of way. And I'll go ahead and throw this in. It's like black men, black women, we all are kings, queens, gods, goddesses, so on and so forth. But if you're not representing that, if you don't act that way, that title does not apply. Now, that does not mean, you know, any other title applies or whatever the case is. It's just that me personally, I have a hard time calling men kings and women queens, because if I don't know you personally, if I don't know where you stand spiritually, I can't, the spiritual aspect means too much to me for me to just be giving that title to people. Even when I was single, I wasn't walking around calling all black women queens. Now, yes you are goddess, but if you don't exemplify, you know, those characteristics, me personally, I don't feel like you deserve that title. You're not anything less to me, because you're still a woman and you still have it in you. You just got to bring it out. You bring it out, I hold you in that regard. I hold women in that regard anyway, regardless of how they act. I'm just not going to, you know, go around placing that title on people. I know I went off sidetrack real quick, but that's what I mean by spirituality. You have to move a certain type of way, and it has to be held in high regard to where you don't want to misrepresent, you know, anything from a spiritual aspect. And an example would be, you know, you seeing unks and doing crystal healings and, you know, manifestations and wearing this and wearing that. On the surface, yeah, you would think they're a spiritual person, but spirituality is not a surface thing. It's not something that you wear. Now, you may want to represent, you know, your spirituality in that way with some surface level things, certain surface level things, but it's a lot more deeper than that. It's about the actual spirit. So playing around with the spiritual world, I look at it like this, and I don't know if the movie portrayed it as something that was actually said, but in the Tupac movie, Afeni, or the actress that's playing Afeni, she said to Tupac that, paraphrasing, you're going to be given the tools to destroy you. So I apply that same thing to spirituality. Yeah, you may have a person that say they represent spirituality and so on and so forth, but for that individual, if they don't really, you know, operate like that from a spiritual sense, those things that they're talking about, yes, it may be true, but at some point in time, flaws are going to be shown, and those things are going to be used against that person, because you're playing with the spiritual world, and the spiritual world is nothing to play with as far as ancestors and so on and so forth. Like, that stuff is serious, and we have too many people that's giving spirituality a bad rap. When I say spirituality, I'm not talking about religion, because for me personally, they're two different things. I'm talking about nature, the universe, astrology, crystals, metaphysics, all that. Religion for me is man-made. It does not go into any of that natural stuff. So when you play around with that stuff, yeah, you may think you tapping into something. You may think, you know, you're doing your chakra healings and getting your chakras in line, you know, doing all this type of stuff. But if you're playing around with that, and only you and the spiritual world is going to know that, those things are going to be used to manifest certain things from a negative standpoint. So you know, and that's part of the same thing as far as all the misrepresentation. Last example I give, as far as YouTube, when I was in college, I caught wind of the conscious community, and I put quotes on it because people have made conscious seem as if it's a bad thing, but that's because individuals are out misrepresenting, you know, what they're standing for. Conscious is not a bad thing, but the conscious community has been turned into something bad, when really you should just say, if you have a problem with an individual, don't, I can't tell you how to operate. What I'm saying is, if you're going to represent something, you have to be serious about it, because it's people like me, as far as spirituality, it's people like me that take it serious. And here we have an individual or a group of individuals up here playing around with it, and you got other people that's looking at it that's probably trying to tap into that, and they're following a bad representation. And then here you are on the side, like, now people looking at you, they hear you, you know, you operate from the spiritual sense, and man, I ain't, whatever. All in all, you get what I'm saying. These topics are being widely misrepresented, and when we deal with certain things, we have to add logic, and don't allow an individual to have you thinking otherwise of something that is true and something that you should live by. Not saying, you know, the polygamy thing, like I said, that's not for everybody, but even if you don't subscribe to spirituality, that is there for everybody, because it's a natural thing. But as far as the independence and women being submissive, we have to stop demonizing these things and understand that we are in different times. So if anybody comes from a biblical standpoint, you got to understand we are no longer in those times. We're not walking in our divine essence. It's a lot of different things that's playing a part in that. So we have to be logical and change our approach on how we deal with things. So I hope this video has put context on a lot of things, and just ultimately, don't let somebody else be the standard of you know, what these things represent and what they mean, because a lot of people are just out here, just, you know, for lack of better terms, just free flowing, and, you know, not really thinking about the things that they're doing and how they're giving these certain topics and certain titles, giving it a bad rep. So when you tapping in with somebody, or when you rock with somebody, you know, just keep that in mind.